Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. I still remember the exact moment my wife, Clara, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're just a paycheck to me." It wasn't a scream, not even a heated outburst. It was cold, calm, like she'd been holding it in for years, and finally decided it didn't matter anymore how much it would hurt me. The words came out of her mouth as if she were talking about the weather, and I swear, that made it sting even more. That evening had started like any other. I came home late from work, shoulders heavy with exhaustion. The house smelled faintly of burnt toast, and the faint sound of the TV echoed from the living room. Clara sat there, scrolling on her phone, barely glancing up when I entered. "Hey!" I greeted softly, hanging my jacket. "You already at dinner?" She didn't answer. It wasn't new. Lately, our conversations had become one-sided, me asking, her ignoring. So I went into the kitchen, found an empty plate on the counter, and sighed. I wasn't angry. Not really. Just tired. When I returned to the living room, I asked, "Did I do something wrong again?" Her eyes flicked to me, expression blank. "You always say that. Maybe you should figure it out yourself." There was no kindness, no emotion, just that cold indifference that I had grown to fear more than anger. I sank onto the couch beside her, careful to keep a little distance. "Clara, I'm trying. I know I've been working a lot lately, but I'm doing it for us. You know that." "For us?" She scoffed, eyes narrowing. "No, James. You're doing it for yourself. You love your job more than you love your own family." "That's not fair," I said quietly, trying to steady my voice. "You know the bills don't pay themselves. The mortgage, the car, My what?" She snapped, cutting me off. "Your expenses," I muttered, instantly regretting how it sounded. Her jaw tightened. "Wow. So I'm just another expense to you now." "That's not what I meant." "Oh, please." She stood up, folding her arms. "You work, you come home, you barely talk, and you think handing me your paycheck makes everything fine. You think I should be grateful for that." I rose too, feeling the tension thick in the air. "Clara, I'm doing what a husband should do. Provide, protect, take care of you." I thought that meant something. She looked me straight in the eyes, and for a second, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not frustration, not sadness, but disgust. "It doesn't," she said coldly. "You're just a paycheck to me, James. That's all you've ever been." My heart stopped. I didn't even react right away. I just stood there, frozen. My mind tried to convince me I'd misheard her, that she didn't mean it, but her face told me otherwise. She wasn't joking. She wasn't angry. She was telling the truth. I swallowed hard. "Say that again." She shrugged. "You heard me." And then she walked away. Just like that. No explanation, no apology. She left me standing there in silence, holding my breath like a fool who'd just been told his entire marriage was built on a lie. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car outside the house for hours, staring at the dashboard, feeling this dull ache in my chest. How do you even respond to something like that? How do you love someone who sees you as nothing more than a source of money? I replayed our entire relationship in my mind. The first time we met at the cafe, her laughter, the way she used to light up when I brought her flowers, our wedding day, the night we moved into our first apartment. Everything had felt real then. Had it all been fake? Was I so blinded by love that I missed the signs? I started noticing little things after that night. She'd stopped asking how my day was. She never said thank you when I paid the bills or surprised her with gifts. Her phone was always in her hand, and I had no idea who she was talking to anymore. But I didn't confront her. Not right away. Instead, I decided to act normal. If she thought I was just a paycheck, I wanted to see how far that belief went. So I started paying attention. When she asked for money for something, I gave it, no questions asked. When she needed the car, I handed her the keys. I went to work, came home, stayed quiet. I gave her exactly what she said she wanted. A paycheck, nothing more. At first, she didn't notice the change. But over time, the silence started to eat at her. One evening, About 2 weeks later, she walked into the kitchen while I was washing dishes. "Why are you so quiet lately?" she asked. I looked up at her. "Just tired, I guess." "You're always tired," she said with a sigh, rolling her eyes. "You don't even try anymore." "Didn't know I needed to," I replied softly, turning back to the sink. "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer. She stepped closer. "James, talk to me." I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Why?" "I'm just a paycheck, remember? Paychecks don't talk." Her expression froze. For the first time, I saw guilt flash across her face. Brief, but there. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off gently. "It's fine, Clara. Really. You were just being honest, right?" "James, I didn't mean—" "It's okay," I said again, drying my hands. "You don't have to explain." And I walked out before she could finish. That night, I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling while she scrolled on her phone. My heart felt like stone. I couldn't even remember the last time we'd held each other, the last time we laughed together, or the last time she looked at me with any real affection. I realized something painful. Love had become one-sided. I was loving someone who had stopped loving me a long time ago. And maybe she didn't even realize how deep the wound she left that night had cut. But I did. I decided then and there I'd pull the plug. Not suddenly, not out of anger, but carefully, quietly, in my own way. Because if I was just a paycheck to her, then she was about to learn what it's like to lose it. But before doing that, I wanted to make sure. I wanted to see if there was anything left of the woman I once loved. Over the next week, I tested her. Small ways. I stopped offering to pay for her salon visits. Didn't refill her card right away. Delayed sending her shopping money. I watched how she reacted. And sure enough, the warmth faded faster than ever. She grew distant, frustrated, cold. Not because she missed me, but because the flow of comfort slowed down. That's when I knew the woman I married was gone. What was left was someone I didn't recognize anymore. And when the truth finally settled in, I felt a strange calm. The kind of calm that comes after a storm. When you realize you've already lost everything that mattered, that's when I began planning my next move. I wouldn't shout. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't beg. I'd simply walk away, quietly with my dignity intact, and leave her to face the silence she created. The next morning, Clara acted as if nothing had happened. She hummed while making her coffee, her face calm and detached, as though those words, "You're just a paycheck to me," had never been spoken. I watched her quietly, every movement sharp in my memory. Her perfect nails, her expensive robe, her eyes that didn't once look at me with warmth. I thought about how much I'd done to make her happy. The overtime hours, the missed family gatherings, the nights I came home so late that she was already asleep. And all that effort, all that sacrifice, had boiled down to one cruel sentence. I didn't confront her again. Instead, I smiled, nodded, and acted as though everything was normal. Because from that day, my plan had already begun. At work, I sat in my office and stared at the numbers on my screen, but my mind wasn't really there. My hands moved automatically, typing reports, answering calls, pretending. The real work I was doing was behind the scenes. I called my lawyer, the one I'd helped with a case years ago. I asked him, if a man wants to quietly separate himself financially from his wife without her knowing right away, what would that look like? He paused before replying, "James, are you sure you want to go down that road?" "I've never been more certain," I said quietly. That day, I began rerouting things, small steps. My direct deposits went into a new account in my name only. I moved my savings. I canceled the secondary credit card she used for her shopping. I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it because I wanted peace. If I was truly nothing more than a paycheck to her, then I was done being one. For the next few weeks, I pretended everything was fine. I laughed when she complained about how the card's not working. I apologized when she snapped at me for forgetting to transfer money. I told her I'd check with the bank. Meanwhile, I was preparing my exit. One night, I came home early. She wasn't there. Her car was gone, and the lights were off. On instinct, I checked her phone location. Yes, I had access. She never thought I'd use it. She was at a restaurant, the same one where we used to celebrate anniversaries. A sinking feeling spread in my chest, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I drove there anyway, parking a little distance away. And that's when I saw her, sitting across from another man. He was dressed neatly, smiling in that confident way that made my stomach twist. They were laughing together, not just casual laughter, but the kind that comes from comfort, from familiarity. She reached out, touching his hand lightly. I stayed in my car, frozen, watching the woman I loved treat another man with the warmth she had long denied me. My hands trembled, not with rage, but with realization. That was the final confirmation I needed. I didn't go in. I didn't cause a scene. I just sat there, silently watching to the windshield as everything I believed in came crashing down. Then, I turned the ignition and drove home. When she returned that night, I acted as though I hadn't seen anything. She walked in smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers, her eyes avoiding mine. Had a good evening? I asked casually. She blinked. Yeah, just met a friend. Oh, and nodded. Good. I didn't ask who. I didn't care anymore. That night, I deleted our joint account, moved the remaining funds, and printed the documents my lawyer had sent earlier that day. Divorce papers. The next morning, I placed them on the kitchen counter, neatly, beside her favorite cup. When she came down for breakfast, she froze. Her hand trembled slightly as she picked them up. James, what is this? I looked up from my coffee. What it looks like. Her eyes widened. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm serious, I said calmly. You said I'm just a paycheck, remember? I figured I'd stop providing what you don't value. James, I was angry that day. You were honest. I interrupted, keeping my tone level. Don't backtrack now. You told me exactly how you see me, and I believed you. Her eyes filled with panic. You're overreacting. You can't just throw away our marriage over one fight. One fight? I laughed softly, shaking my head. Clara, that wasn't one fight. That was the truth spilling out. You've been distant for months, maybe years. You don't love me. You love the life I provide. That's not true, she snapped. You think I stayed because of money? Didn't you? I asked quietly. Be honest. Her silence said everything. She sank into the chair, her face pale. James, please. I can change. I didn't mean it like that. I wanted to believe that. I said softly. That's why I waited. That's why I acted normal. I gave you time to show me something real, Clara, but every day since then, you proved me right. You didn't care about me, only what I could offer. Her voice cracked. So what now? You're just going to leave? After everything? Yes, I said, standing up, because there's nothing left to stay for. She started crying, real tears for once. James, please, don't do this. I looked at her for a long moment, feeling both love and sorrow collide inside me. She looked small, broken, but it was too late. I already did, I said quietly. The plug's been pulled. You just didn't notice until now. I left that morning with a single suitcase and my laptop. The silence in the car was deafening, but strangely peaceful. For the first time in years, I wasn't running after anyone's approval. I wasn't trying to fix something that didn't want to be fixed. I drove to a small apartment I'd rented under my name weeks ago, a modest space overlooking the river. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like freedom. The next few days were hard. The emptiness hit me at night, when I'd reach across the bed and find nothing but cold sheets. When I'd look at my phone, expecting a message that never came. But slowly, the pain dulled. I started sleeping better. I began running in the mornings again, cooking my own meals, rediscovering pieces of myself I had forgotten. And one day, as I sat by the window watching the sunset, I realized she had done me a favor. By telling me I was just a paycheck, she freed me from a lie. She forced me to see the truth I've been avoiding, that love can't survive where respect has died. Weeks later, she reached out. James, her message read, "Can we talk?" I ignored it at first, but when she kept calling, I finally picked up. Her voice was softer than I remembered. "I'm sorry. I was stupid. I didn't mean what I said. I just felt neglected, and I lashed out. I understand, I replied calmly. But some things can't be taken back, Clara. Please, she whispered. We can fix this. I'll do anything. I hesitated. For a brief moment, I almost caved, because the heart, no matter how hurt, still remembers what it once loved. But I reminded myself of the man I'd been in that living room, standing there as she stripped my worth down to numbers on a paycheck. No, I said quietly. We can't. She was silent for a long time before saying, So that's it? That's it, I said. You'll get the papers soon. Take care of yourself. And I hung up. That night, I stood by the window again, the city lights reflecting off the glass. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't revenge. It was acceptance. I'd lost a wife, yes, but I'd found myself again. I realized that being someone's paycheck wasn't the insult. It was a wake-up call I needed, because I was more than that. I was a man who loved deeply, who gave everything, and who finally learned that love without respect is just charity disguised as commitment. And now, I was done giving away pieces of myself to someone who only counted them in dollars. As I closed my eyes that night, the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. I had finally pulled the plug, not out of bitterness, but out of love for the man I was before she forgot who he was.